One of the biggest surprises from the Luck Index this year was that Fulham actually would have survived, and survived quite comfortably. Our analysis showed that they would have been 3 points clear of the relegation zone, whereas Brighton, the luckiest team in our Luck Index, would have been relegated.
This may come as a surprise to some. The reasons why are a bit complex. It's not just Fulham being unlucky in a number of games. It was also Brighton and Cardiff. There's a bit of a swing there with Brighton and Cardiff actually being more fortunate. Does that pass the eye test, smell test, Melissa?
In terms of Brighton particularly, which I think the Luck Index showed that they would have been relegated, there was a lot of unhappiness with them sacking Chris Hughton. But speaking to people around the club, they were saying that the trend that they'd seen was quite negative, both in terms of playing style, but also with results, performances, and they wanted to change it. They actually felt that they were a bit fortunate in circumstances. So I think the information bears that out.
Well, that's what Chris Hughton was criticised for, because they sat very deep, there was no creativity, they didn't play with any sort of dynamism. It was a strange season from them, really. They relied very much on set plays, and I think they did have a bit of luck when they were defending deep. Teams had lots of shots against them and just missed the target. I think the goalkeeper made lots of good saves. He was probably their best player all season. So I think Brighton were lucky to stay up.
Well, I mean, I think they were very lucky to be lucky, weren't they? Because everything else was relegation material, really. I think that, you know, like I said, the lack of goals, the lack of wins, just the lack of any kind of positivity. They were, for me, just sliding down the table. So any luck they had was obviously crucial in keeping them out of the bottom three. Because
people have criticised them for getting rid of Chris Hughton, saying, "Oh, he did a great job keeping them up." If he'd have stayed there this year and they hadn't got, I can't see them.
No, the writing was on the wall, wasn't it?
The writing was on the wall.
I think a lot of people kind of fell in the trap that, you know, Chris Hughton's a nice guy and he's done well getting teams promoted, but that was a club, Brighton, were a club that, considering their advantages, that are, you know, in a nice part of the UK, they can attract players, that they've not got a lot of competition around them, they've got a great setup on and off the pitch, they should be doing a lot better than they are, and it's almost like they were just kind of surviving under Chris Hughton.
I actually think Brighton stepped back and looked at the bigger picture. I really think they do. I think it would have been actually the easy option to stay with Hughton, because he's so well liked and he has done a good job there. But I think just being unable to bring the best out of the signings they made, to be able to get any sort of positivity in terms of, like we said, philosophy and just in general around the place, people didn't seem.
And the strange thing, when they played in the FA Cup, I did a lot of their FA Cup games, and they looked a better side in the FA Cup, even with their second team. But they played with more about them. They played with more freedom. There was more creativity. They had a little bit more pace, and they closed the ball down slightly better than the team that I kept on seeing play in the Premier League week in, week out.
Coming back to Fulham, obviously they changed 3 managers over the course of the season. And I should specify this to some degree. The Luck Index tells us that they should have stayed up. Luck Index looks at all 38 games. They had, I think, at least 1 or maybe 2 dead rubber wins at the end of the season under Scott Parker. I want to get just from you, when a team has nothing to play for, like Fulham in that situation, as a referee, and maybe they're playing some other mid-table schlub, does the game just feel different? Is there a different energy to it?
Yes, there is a different energy. There's a different energy in terms of how the players express themselves. You know, we mentioned that word freedom and the way they run for each other. They're not under that so much pressure. You can feel on the field when there's pressures on players. You can feel on the field when the players are talking to one another, you know, in an aggressive manner, because they're feeling that pressure. When a club knows their fate, as Fulham knew their fate, under Scott Parker, he's just said to them, he's given them a shape to play for. He's gone out and said, look, play to that shape, play to those tactics.
Is that because the fear and the anxiety is taken out of the situation, so there's less likely to be that intensity there, because, you know, if they make a mistake, it's not going to cost them relegation.
And what about your fear and anxiety? Does that change?
It does to an account, yes. I'm not so sort of wound up to have that game. I'm going to that game probably a little bit more relaxed. But again, when the game starts, you don't know what's in front of you, of course. But from an average point of view, it is easier to referee teams who know their fate than it is to referee teams who don't.
I wonder if, as the gap between the top 6 and everybody else frankly, continues to increase, you're going to have, people talk about the mid-table sides being ambitious. I'm thinking of Leicester, Wolves, Bournemouth, West Ham possibly, but I look at Bournemouth specifically last season, and they were an incredibly inconsistent up and down team. And once they'd achieved their objective, it did feel as if those guys were very much on the beach starting from early April. And I wonder how that's going to impact things going forward, if that's a situation we're going to see more of.
We thought we got away from that 10 years ago. It was very much the top 4, 5 and 6, and teams came to try and keep the score down, and they were boring games where teams would go 1-0 up early on, the top 6 side, and the other side never really tried to get back into the game, and it was damage limitation. We went away from that for a little while, but it looks like it's coming back again, which I don't think is good for the
Well, it's interesting because a lot of coaches say that once a team hits its target, if it's 40 points, there's not a kind of a subconscious switch off because they've done what they've set out to do, which is why Leicester winning the title and Ranieri was such a big thing, because he kept changing the targets and they continued to meet the targets. So
that was a criticism of Tony Pulis' side, wasn't it? When they'd get to a certain point, that's it. We don't have to win any more games.
Yeah, West Brom, I think 2-3 seasons ago, we're on 40 points in almost February, and that was it. The season was over in January. They were not to the FA Cup, they were safe. And I think
so. There must be some luck if you're playing those sort of teams at the end of the season when you need the points.
Yeah. When they've achieved their objective that they were set out to do, and they know that they've they hit the bonuses and everything's there. I mean, I think when Burnley qualified for the
always come down to money, don't you? So it's always the same with you. You and your contracts. Oh dear.
So, sorry, Brighton fans, I can't confirm that the Luck Index was part of the reason why Chris Hughton is no longer your manager, but I can tell you, Fulham, you were a bit unlucky.